afternoon.
Okay. Kevin, start off teaching us, and then I'll take it from there.
Okay, so for the share tonight, I want to dedicate this for Shlema for Rachel Batzia. And does anyone else have a dedication for refuah for anybody?
No, that's good. Okay.
Okay. So first Shlema also for the people and for our soldiers, our brave soldiers. May Hashem protect them and help them defeat the enemy speedily and return our hostages.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, so just a quick one. On my run today, I also heard another halacha share. It's about the laws of Shabbat and davening. So the one about davening, when you daven, uh, first of all, when you say the Shema, you have to cover your eyes. Your eyes have to be closed, they're not open. And when you daven, your feet are together because you're supposed to emulate the Malachim in their service of Hashem, and your hands can be together or at your sides, not on your hips, because it's you must be in a serious stance. And if your hands are on your hips, it's like you're relaxed. If your hands are together, it's like you are in servile mode, like avodah mode. And in terms of the laws of Shabbat, in terms of opening packages, as we all know, packages and bottles, etc. One should avoid at all costs to destroying letters and chip packets or other packages. If in doubt, just make sure to add that to your checklist, Erev Shabbos, to just open things before. Then it avoids a whole lot of problems and issues. And the same applies to if you're opening a bottle of grape juice where the cap, if it has a metal cap, you're creating a kli. So open it before, because if you're opening it on Shabbos itself, you have to put a hole in. You have to put a hole in the cap to make it unusable or as a kli or not create a kli. So
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that. So yeah.
Thank you. In terms of, you said when, I also learn when I run. I learn from Rabbi Ran Cohen, but that's as far as. All right. I'm going to start with the share. I just want to give Brendan a little bit of background because I'm not sure on the conversion program how much you know. I might be stating the obvious. So we're going to be learning some of the implications of a mikveh. So Brendan, a mikveh is a ritual bath. It's basically a body of water used to purify people and utensils from tumor contamination. So it's not contamination as you'd imagine from a virus, but from spiritual contamination. So tara is purity, and tumor is spiritual impurity. So if it's spiritually impure, for example, it's been near a dead body, or there's certain other levels of tumor. One of them are seminal emission from a zav, or menstrual contact, etc. Those lead to tumor, and including like a sheretz, which is like dead lizards and rats, etc. And what we have to do is have a mikveh to immerse ourselves or those utensils or contents in order that they're free from spiritual contamination, which is tumah. Now, for it to be effective, and most of you guys might not know this, a mikveh must contain at least 40 se'ah of water in a reservoir, which is part of the ground, meaning it's like a cistern that's built into the ground, or a lake. So when we say a lake, we meaning a natural body of water in which rainwater almost is contained within it, or you can build a human manufactured cistern, but it must be built into the ground. It must have some connection with the ground, or you can attach another sort of hole into the ground according to certain specifications. So we're going to learn what 40 se'ah of water actually means regarding measurements. So Just to give you a bit of a background, the waters of a mikveh have to be connected naturally. What do we mean? It's like they generally rainwater runoff. Now, the problem is you can't take water that's drawn from a well or some other source in a utensil and pour it into a mikveh because that's not valid for immersion. Okay? So, to this basic invalidation, the rabbis added a particular safeguard. So, you've got any body of naturally collected rainwater that has not reached yet the 40 sa'ah necessary to form a usable mikveh is invalidated by the addition of as little as 3 login of drawn water. I'm going to discuss what those quantities mean now. But once a mikveh has 40 sa'ah necessary to make it operational, it's not invalidated by the addition of drawn water, and indeed renders any drawn water that comes into contact with it valid mikveh water. So we're saying something pretty simple, is that the naturally collected rainwater has to be 40 se'ah. Anything above that, even if it's drawn water, well, becomes absorbed into that mikveh water, and it renders it valid for use. Just to give you a little bit of a quantity, here is a lug, in the Aramaic form, or a log, is a volume measure equal to 6 medium-sized chicken eggs. So when we say 3 login is the amount of drawn water which can invalidate a mikveh, we are saying that that is equivalent to between approximately 1 liter and 6 milliliters. So it's not 1.6 liters, it's not 1 liter and 600 milliliters, it's 1 liter and 6 milliliters. So it's 1.06 of a liter. So that would be the equivalent of 18 medium-sized chicken eggs, because each log is 6. Now, just to give you how big a se'ah is, a se'ah is basically 24 login. So what does this mean when you have 40 se'ah? It means that you need at least 340.6 liters of rainwater in order to accumulate a mikveh. So it doesn't mean you have to have it in one long go, as long as that's the total literage that it contains. Mikvahs can be anything from rectangular to round to square. So again, just let's have a look at it here. So if you have, for example, instead of 340.6 liters, you short and you've got basically 339 liters. In that particular case, if you add drawn water into it, even though it's 99.9% full, it becomes invalidated for use. Okay, so that's the first thing that you've got to bear in mind. Any questions so far, guys?
Yeah. So you said if you add drawn water to it.
Yeah, so basically if you
Yeah.
add water drawn from a well,
Okay, it has to be from rainwater from a natural
yeah, so it has to generate, like for example, a lake or even the ocean. I'm not an expert on how to build a mikveh, but uh, any drawn water can contract in and of itself tumah if it's been what do you call it, food
exposed.
exposed, yeah. So the thing of it is you've got 340.6 liters for a kosher mikveh. If you add 339 liters, which is 1.06 of a liter taken out of it, and you throw all of a sudden drawn water from a well into that, that invalidates a mikveh. That was a stringency by the rabbis. Once you have 340.6 liters, which is 40 se'ah of rainwater, then any future water that you throw in there, even if it's drawn from a well, is accepted as being a sufficient majority to make it all pure for mikveh immersion of utensils and person. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward so far. It's going to get complicated, but this is simple.
Are you going to answer this? Is it a possibility if your mikveh is too small and you're 1.7 liters, whatever, below, can you make the mikveh a bit smaller so that it fits? I don't know.
So
Maybe it's too.
that's a good question. So Gavin's saying on a practical level, how do you have, who's got that size Olympic swimming pools that you need 12 Olympic swimming pools basically? I don't know how big it is, but Gavin's saying, well, you've heard of small mikvahs. I have no idea, Gav. Truth of it is, it's
Some,
out of the scope of this Gemara. Lance might know.
it's to do with the volume of the water, not the capacity of the mikveh. So if you've got a mikveh that can take 3,000 liters, but you only need 500, as long as you can practically use 500 liters, um, because obviously when your mikveh is very big and it gets too shallow, it becomes impractical. But it's to do with the volume of water, not the size of the mikveh. If you've got a much bigger mikveh, you need more water. But then what Damon's saying is, as long as you've got your minimum volume, then you can add to it to get the mikveh to the correct volume required. So now in
Yeah.
Cape Town, what they sometimes do when they build a mikveh is they'll build, say you need 1,000 liters to make it kosher. They'll dig underneath the mikveh structure and put in a JoJo tank, say of 1,000 liters capacity. Then they've got a duct which can link the kosher water to the water above. And then the water in the main area where you're going to be dipping might be 10,000 liters. But the 1,000 below makes the 10,000 above kosher. As long as you've got the minimum kosher amount.
Guys, Lance is an expert on civil engineering, believe me, and he's seen mikvahs built in Cape Town. And also, Gav, one thing to bear in mind on what Lance is saying is that if you have a look, for example, if you take 5 meters by 5 meters, that's 25 square meters. Suddenly, if you make it cubed because you're adding liquid in, it doesn't take a lot to use 340.6 liters. Do you agree, Lance? It's not as big as people
Yeah,
imagine.
if you got 5 by 5 and you normally have it at least 1.8, 1.5 deep, but so you're talking already is it 25,000 liters? It's like 30,000 liters already, and that's a regular size mikveh in Joburg. It's you have like 3, 4 men going there at the same time. But what makes it kosher is the 400 liters or 360 liters that's on the side that's connected to it.
Okay, good. So we needed that background because I swear I had no idea. It was
That's actually quite clever what they do. It's actually very clever.
very clever. It's
Mhm.
only when you started to explain it, I realized it wasn't square meter, it's just like cubic meters. And they have obviously a duct and etc. So that's very, very smart. So it's just 340.6 liters, Gavin. It's not so much. I
Yeah.
don't think practically if more than one person could go in it at that. It's not big at all.
I think a normal bath is 150 liters.
Yeah, that's what I just realized now. Yeah. Okay, so great. You understand the concept. Now we're going to start to get a little bit more technical. So out of 340.6 liters, that would make it kosher. If you minus 1.06 of a liter, you're left with 339 liters. Any water that was added into that, which is drawn water, invalidates the whole mikveh. So it's almost 99.9% full before it's ruined. So now we're going to be dealing with minute measurements. So how did we get onto this? Because we learned quite a few rules about Rav Yehuda. Where Rav Yehuda quoted Shmuel, he quoted Rav. This is one of the last rules. So Rav Yehuda also said in the name of Rav, 3 login of drawn water, which is 1.06 liters, into which a quartov of wine fell. Now, just to explain to you what a quartov is so small in terms of quantity It's 1/64th of a log. Okay, so if a log is 6 medium-sized chicken eggs, then 1/64th of that is a quartov. I'm telling you guys, it's so fractional you can not even imagine. If there's 1.06 liters of 3 login were nothing compared to the 339 liters, then imagine a quartov, which is 1/64th of a single log and not 3 login, which we got 1.6 liters, 1.06 liters. It's almost like a third of a syringe. You know, it's non-existent. It's non-existent, but it's enough to be a factor when you're calculating a mikvah. So let me just repeat what Rav Yehuda is saying now that you've got your measurements. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, 3 login of drawn water into which a quartov of wine fell, and whose color is like the color of wine, thereby raising the question whether the mixture should be treated as water according to the majority of the mixture, or as wine according to the mixture's color. If these 3 lugin then fell into a mikvah, which does not yet contain 40 sa'ah needed to make it operationally valid, they do not invalidate it because the water in the mikvah, because the mixture is judged according to its color. So basically, since the color is that of wine, the mixture is no longer considered water and thereby does not invalidate the rainwater into which it fell. So let me just give you a little bit of background here. You have Mikvahos in chapter 2 and Idios in chapter 1 and passage 3. Now, I don't know if you know what Idios is. So I don't know if you know that you can use the word Shabbos or Shabbat. Okay, so you've got Shabbos and Shabbat. It's according to the pronunciation. And you've got Shavuos, which is an oath. So one of the books of Nezikin are Harias and Adios. And that contains Pikei Avot, by the way. So once it was a Sephardi person pronouncing it to me and said to me, look under idiot, which is Adios, like Shabbat, Idios. Yeah. And I said, you're the idiot. Anyway, he got a little offended. And he was actually referring to the book. Sorry, let's not snake with fur. So he was actually referring to the book Adias. In there, obviously prescribes certain ways to allow a mikveh and invalidate it. So, although you can't have drawn water in case it can contain tumah contamination, because people use a well to clean linen, and that linen can have a seminal emission or be from a person that's menstruating, and they draw water, and people do stupid things with a well. You know, you meant to just draw water out of it, but people like dunk things in there, etc. So the rabbinical decree that 3 login invalidate a mikvah do not apply to any other liquid gas other than water. And the proof is in Adios, chapter 1, verse 3, and Mikvahs, chapter 2, and chapter 7, verse 1 and 2. So what it's basically saying here is that, look, basically 3 lugin of water contaminate, the 1.06 liter of drawn water contaminate 339 liters of pure rainwater, and then you cannot complete an operational mikveh. So we're saying, what happens if that 1.06 liters, you have a quartov that mixes within that, which is 1/64th of it's not 1/64th of the whole measure, it's 1/64th of a log, which means 1/64th divided by 3. So it's approximately, it's 192 fractionally out of that whole amount. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you took that whole amount of 1.06 liters and you turned it into 192 divisions of that, you take one of those to be a quartov. So we're talking an infinitesimal amount, but that's enough if it was consisting of wine to not invalidate the 3 lugim of water, according to Rav Yehuda, who said in the name of Rav. Why? Because the color is that of wine, and therefore it raises the question whether the mixture should be treated as diluted wine or as water. Why would it be treated as water? Because if you have, in terms of a part, 192 parts of it, and one part out of 192 is wine, would you consider that whole mixture wine because the color of wine is so dark it makes everything look like wine? Or do you take it on the fact the majority of the substance is in fact water, and therefore it would invalidate the rainwater because 3 log in of it would of drawn water would be counted as water, which can invalidate a mikveh. Before we go on, does everybody understand this? Because if I'm building 6 steps on this, you're going to really battle if you don't understand this. Any questions, any of you?
So the wine doesn't invalidate it, the 164th, but the 3 lugim of drawn water does.
No. We're not quite saying that. Good, Kevin.
No, just what's the 3 lugim of water? Just I'm getting
Yeah,
bit
no.
low. Yeah.
I'll mention it now. Guys, can any of you give it over? Lance, you the civil engineer, can you give it over?
I'm just checking. So are you saying that it must look like water, but can't look red? So in other words, if you take food coloring, like a little capful, and you put it in the mikveh, it'll make the whole mikveh look reddish. It's a tiny, tiny amount, but the mikveh looks red, therefore it's not invalid.
Okay, I'm saying good. I'm pleased you're asking this question because then I need to rephrase what I'm saying so that you guys understand. We're not taking the mikveh as a whole in terms of color invalidation at this point. What we are saying is the water is 99.9% full because it's got 339 liters of water. That extra 1.06 of a liter would make it kosher or treif. Treif, in other words, it would be an invalidated mikveh if it was drawn water and the rest is rain. But if any other liquid fell into it, for example, 1.06 of a liter of wine or any other liquid, it's not considered tumah and therefore completes the mikveh. It doesn't have to affect the rest of the
Is that because drawn water can become tumor and wine can't?
Correct. So according to, and I'm going to give you the sources now, according to Dios, which is in Harias and Pikei Avot, it's one of the books of Nezikin, in chapter 1, verse 3, it states that no other liquids other than water can invalidate a mikveh. Same in Mikvahos, chapter 2 and chapter 7. So in other words, water that's drawn is the only thing that it can invalidate a mikveh, but no other liquids. That's the one thing you've got to know. Excellent, Lance and Kevin. So what we are saying is here, we're not talking, there's no question with regards to if the 3 lugin were any other substance. It will complete a mikveh and it will all be valid. We're saying what happens now if you've got 3 lugin of drawn water, invalidates. But what if it's mixed up with a kortov, and kortov is when you take 1 lug of water and it's a 64th of a lug. Here they're 3 lugin of water, which is taking those 3 lugin and dividing it into 192 parts, and you're saying one of those parts is wine. Does the color, because it's so strong wine, that would affect not the whole mikveh, Lance? It could never make the whole mikveh in that sort of quantity change to a color of wine. But we're only talking about the surplus of that 1% to make up the mikveh. Is it enough to make it almost seem like wine in terms of its color and thereby not invalidate the mikveh if those 3 lugin complete it, when 1 part out of 192 is wine? Or do we say we look at the majority of the mixture being water, and therefore saying 191 parts of those 3 lugin are water, and therefore that's the dominant factor, not the color? That's what we're saying. Now, before we go on and build other steps and different opinions, and it's really going to get complicated, I want you guys to be able to give this over to me.
But can I ask you something? Sorry, because my concentration is not tremendous today. Just with the ligum, whatever you call it, just go through that measurement again and the 192. I actually understand what you're talking about. Just explain that. That's the part I didn't hear you. What's a legume and the 192? How did you get to that? Sorry, just explain
Okay,
that
so
again.
it's a lug is the Aramaic, and a log is more of the modern sort of Hebrew that they use. So a single log is a volume measure equal to 6 medium-sized chicken eggs, Gavin. Okay, so if you it's approximately like 303 milliliters. Exactly. Each
Now, 100 milliliters. So you say it's 330.
no
All right.
303. 3
303. Okay. All
no
right.
no 302. 302.
All right. So it's
3
about a that's about a like a fifth
A can of
of
Coke.
1.7, isn't it?
Hang on,
1.6.
it's no, it's hang on, it's 335. 335 milliliters. I just worked it out in my head now. 335 milliliters.
What? One look.
One lug is 335 milliliters.
Okay. So what's and the other one is 1.6. Is it 1.6 liters?
No. Before we get to that, if you take 335 milliliters, which is one lug, and you get lugim, which is the plural, if you times 335 times 3, you're going to get 1.06.
And that's yeah.
Because
So that's is it times 3? All right.
times
Perfect.
3,
Okay.
which is 18 medium-sized chicken eggs. So 335 milliliters of drawn still water times 3 is 1.06 of a liter. Because does that make sense? Roughly. The one would have to be 336, technically, but you've got it. So 335 milliliters of water.
Okay. Got you. How do you get to the 92 now?
No. I'll tell you how. Before we get there, we say 40 se'ah. A kosher mikveh is 40 se'ah. Okay, and a se'ah is 24 lugin. So I'm not going to overly complicate you with details. So 40 se'ah is the equivalent to 340.6 liters. 340.6 liters. So we said a kosher mikveh complete is 340.6. Any drawn water you add above that automatically becomes kosher by majority. Okay, so now what we're saying is you've got a problem because the mikveh has only 339 liters. It needs another 1.06 of a liter, which is 3 lugin, to complete it. If any other liquid is thrown in but drawn water, it becomes kosher. Only drawn water has got tumah risk.
So it can be wine, fruit juice,
Yeah, well,
anything
fruit juice would have to
except water.
fruit juice would have to be pure fruit because often they add water to it. So just think of it as wine.
Yeah.
Let's take things like wine and milk. That's what the Gemara is going to be.
To top it up.
So
So all we are saying is our problem becomes when we're starting to mix within those 3 lugin different chemical mixtures together. Because is it considered wine or water? Is it considered milk or is it considered water? Does it depend on the color or does it depend on the constituency ratio? So just to get it clear, let's just get our ratios right. The first ratio, Gavin, is that a quart tov is 1/64th of a log or lug. 1/64th. So if you have 3 lugin, which is 335, 335, and 336 milliliters, equaling 1.06 milliliters, then a quart of, if it's 1/64th of a lug, then basically a quart of, if you add 3 lugin, is 1 part out of 192 parts. Trust me.
Big liters. Yeah. Okay. Got you.
All I'm saying is it's such an infinitesimal amount when you consider a mikveh being 340.6 liters. So the question arises now, if you're taking 3 lugin and a quart of is 1/64th of a lug, then you're having 192 out of 1 part out of 192 parts, which a quart of would affect a mixture of 3 lugin of the 1.06 of a liter. So we're saying if wine fell into that mixture, you haven't really got 3 lugin of impure water. So do we consider it so much of a majority that that would invalidate the mikvah? Or do we say that because it's the color of wine and it looks like wine and we go by the color and not the percentage of water, it would be kosher because it's a wine majority and therefore doesn't invalidate a mikveh when added to the rest of the quantity of 339 liters. And according to Rav Yehuda and Rav, because we go by the color of wine and not the basically not the amount of water to wine ratio on the additional 3 lugin, it is it's a valid mikveh. It makes it operationally valid. In other words, they do not invalidate the water in the mikveh because the mixture is judged according to its color, according to Rav Yehuda's opinion on Rav.
So you can go
Good
take tap
question.
water, add a drop of 1/6, whatever it is, that amount, a little drop of wine, it's like a capful maybe, I don't know, maybe slightly more, but and you drop it in, and that's it. With what tap water, and you'll be fine then.
Yeah, well, this is the whole argument because it's a fraction of a fraction. Yeah.
Yeah, fraction of
Say the,
like, it's like a lid
say the
of a.
mikvah is 300 liters instead of 340. Can you add 40 liters of wine?
No, Brendan, 339 liters.
No. Say you only have 300 liters in the mikvah, and you short 40. Can you add 40 liters of wine?
I don't know. As far as I know, there has to be. I don't think so. I don't know how far it stretches. I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
think
Damon, it'll be the most expensive mikveh you've ever had. You had 40 liters of
very
wine.
sick. Yeah.
Now, what will the water will disappear from the
It'll
mixture?
be
Hang on.
Perrier, basically.
What did you want to ask? Just Brendan, the main thing with the Gemara is that you can find out from your local Rov, like when you know how much, if it's all in one or whatever. As you said, it's the world's most expensive mikveh. But for the principle here, the Gemara is trying to stretch you to the last breadth of an example, not a ridiculous example. Do you get what I'm saying? So in other words, it's wanting to say how much of a hair's breadth do they make the definition?
Okay.
You get what I'm saying, Lance? Yeah.
Yeah.
The volume 1/64th of a lug. Okay. So that actually works out to about 5 moles. What's the significance of that volume?
So yeah, the significance is that it actually plays a factor. That's why I said a syringe, because you do get a 5 ml syringe exactly. So out of in fact the significance, according to Rav Yehuda and Rav, is if that mixture of wine was put into 3 lugin of water that was drawn, it would be considered wine because of its color and not
Okay.
3 lugin of drawn water, and therefore wouldn't invalidate a mikveh when that was thrown in 339 liters of rainwater. It would complete the mikveh.
That's interesting because it's not considered wine halachically. Wine, you can't, I think the ratio is 1:6. If you add 1 part wine to 6 parts water, it's still considered wine. This 1/64th of a lug, 5 mils, isn't enough to make that mixture be considered halachically as being wine.
That's if you're doing a bracha for a hagafen. They're two different issues. So what Rav is saying is, Rav, you're going to see, is going to go according to one of the Tanaim Ben Nuri, who talks about mikveh immersion in terms of validation. It's different to when you need a certain amount of quantity in order to do borei pri hagafen, so you don't have a wasted bracha, and it's accurate. For they're different criteria entirely.
Okay.
The one has to do with invalidation, and that's why it's going to bring the example of milk, because we're going to say, listen, does it have to do with does any other liquid that's thrown into that measure of 339 liters complete a mikveh if it's not drawn water? And we say yes, it's a kosher mikveh. And therefore, it's different when you're trying to work out what to do share call and Priya Gafen. And Lance is right, because they also had very pungent wine in those days that you couldn't drink neat, and you'd have to actually dilute it. So Lance is completely correct, but that has to do with brocha application as opposed to invalidation of a mikveh for wine dilution. But there are rabbis that actually agree with one of the Tanaim agree with Lance that it has nothing necessarily to do with color. It has to do specifically, like with Rav Chia, with constitution in terms of total quantity. In other words, if it's such a fraction, does it even make a difference? Even if it looks like one, can we say it in fact is one? So there are opinions that say it's about the color. There's other opinions that talk about you know, if you've got just 5 mil under 3 lugin of drawn water. Let's say you have 3 lugin of drawn water, but then you've got another mixture that doesn't quite make 3 lugin. It's not enough to invalidate the mikvah, because it has to be at least 3 lugin of drawn water. So then a small quantity is enough to contrast the ill effects of invalidating a mixed mikvah. So we're going to see this. And one of the things you can talk about when we see a 1 in 60th ratio is in terms of kashrut. It's a factor that comes up generally not in 1 in 64. But there are factors where they go to extreme fractions. But less than 3 lugin of drawn water do not invalidate a mikvah. So we're saying it does make a difference as far as that's concerned, because it's not enough to offset 339 liters. So they're completely different issues. But it's valid what Lance is saying. I think for brocha purposes, no question. It has to be like, what was it, Lance? 1 in 6, if I remember from the
Yes, 1 in 6, yeah.
by Goldschmidt when he gives the Mishnah Brura. All right, guys, I'll make it clearer tomorrow, but as long as you understand the simple part now, the simple
Yeah, I
part.
just want to ask you what's the overriding
Yeah.
opinion is that it's based on color, not
No,
dilution.
we're going to go through each opinion.
Are we still going to do that? Okay.
Yeah,
Then we
but it's
haven't
going to
got
get complicated if you don't understand the basic part. I've learned it off by heart. I can tell you in the car. All right, Putti. Be well.
Yeah.
Cheers,
Well
guys.
done.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.